The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
My name is Andrew Windyboy. I'm a Chippewa Cree. I did 2 boarding schools, one in Wapton Indian School in Wapton, North Dakota, and the other one is Flandreau Indian School in Flandreau, South Dakota. Mid-60s to early 70s, took me to the boarding school where I wasn't allowed to talk my native tongue or practice my native ways. Numerous times they put on this big old big huge white cone, put on there, says dance. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know English. They put it on me, make me well all over. Kids would laugh at me. They took me away from all of that and punished me for talking that. It was my first language. I didn't know any other language. So whenever I talk, it came out. Cree would come out, and whenever I talk, I get hit. I got hit so much I lost my tongue. I lost my native tongue. The only thing I remember was my Indian name. Which is Ksenu-Kiyu, means old man eagle. That's the only Cree I knew. They beat me. Every day, they beat me. They cut off my hair, made me kneel in front of the door where everybody come in. Everybody make fun of me when they come by me, rub my head and laugh at me. Because I was talking. They caught me talking. I hope someday somebody will hear me. I hope nobody has to go through this. They have to have their own language. Because what we do when we talk to our spirits, they don't understand English. They look at you, you be telling me English. What are you saying? Tanse tuain. Tanse mave tuain. Probably saying that in Cree. Like now you didn't know what I just said. That was a hard time in my life. I'll always remember it. For that white man, it's a terrible shame for him to be treating people like this. Because we are the people. We just don't to be accepted.
This is Kevin Annett, reporting to you from Brantford, Ontario in Canada, at the site of the oldest Indian residential school in Canada, where today Mohawk elders gave authorization to commence digging and the uncovering of mass graves of children who died in the school for over a century and a half. Mohawk elders, working with myself and the International Tribunal into Crimes of Church and State, identified and opened mass graves of children and used ground-penetrating radar to establish that much soil has been replaced and moved in order to cover these mass graves. We're continuing this investigation to gather evidence to indict the Crown of England, the Anglican Church and the Government of Canada, as well as the Catholic Church and the United Church for crimes against humanity and the murder of children. Please stay tuned for press statements and other breaking news on this issue at itccs.org. Thank you.
My name is Dehamande. I'm of the Mohawk Nation. These people that are with me are also of the Mohawk Nation. And we make this stand today to let the world know what we're doing on our own territory. We are making digs that are to uncover the graves of children who've been lost in residential schools. We know that there have been lies given to us by the church and the state, and they're covering up material. They say that they're letting the world know. They've admitted that there has been crimes. They've admitted that there are bodies out there, but they're doing nothing about it to bring them to justice. Now, we have authorized Kevin Annett and the International Tribunal for Crimes of Church and State to help us to bring forensic evidence to prove that we have these bodies here. And we are going to bring justice for our children that have been lost in these residential schools.
There was a time when that the horses were allowed to be rounded up and taken by anybody from the outside. So some of the horses were taken away, and a lot of them were killed or just slaughtered. It wasn't uncommon for families to find their horses had been killed.
There's a word that we use, which is "can," which means it's all right. When something has happened, a loss has been made. Somebody's lost a job, or somebody's been ripped off, or just different things. When people say "can," and it's not all right.
I think one of the biggest injustices too was what happened in residential schools. Like, people were expected. Well, it's not what they were expected to do. It's what was the goal of taking Indian kids to residential school was to strip them completely of their identity as Indian people. And in that way, they were basically taught to be ashamed of
for a Native person to be able to go to war or to go to fight for his country. First of all, if you were a treaty, you weren't considered human or a person within the law or the context of today's laws. So you had to turn around and give up your Aboriginal rights or your treaty rights in order to be able to qualify to join the Canadian Army. So it's a huge, huge price to turn around and go and fight for your country. That's basically, you gave up all your treaty rights or all your rights home for the following generations after. Family, heritage, back is basically you weren't even recognized by your own country for what you've done, culture, and everything.
There's a side road that was built, and the reason why it was built was that people we'd be able to see if somebody was coming into the area first before they seen us. That's the reason why the first road was built, so that people wouldn't be surprised. There always seemed to be a fear of the white people and stuff, so it's been there for many years. They're very shy. Like if you came and tried to visit and they didn't recognize you, they'd hide. He was running to hide. Even though I was in the house, he was running to hide.
Tam se všichni napřed, to jsou to lidi, musí to mít. He's actually seen some of the horses in the elephantry. Recently, and they're black, browns, and bays. So
that were here for this.
Yeah, they're very well. So there are still some survivors. Those are the our family sources.
George Mann is a treaty Indian. The Department of Veterans Affairs said he wasn't eligible for normal veterans benefits, insurance, business and professional loans, Veterans Lands Act.
So forgive you for making it illegal for us to be able to defend our children.
Back home, he found his treaty benefits had disappeared. The Indian agent, Ottawa's administrative representative, said Mann lost his treaty status by being in the Army. That was because he had acquired the right to vote by defending his country.
You know, for me, I think, like, in regards to the stuff coming out of residential schools, you know, is for that issue to be addressed. Like, it's, yes, turn around and deal with the issue of it, but, like, there's probably third, maybe fourth generations that are still bearing, you know, the weight of the abuse that happened 4 generations back, you know, and now turn around and try and stand up underneath that, you know, through all the guilt and the shame, you know, the grief, everything else. It's like, you know, it's bad enough we have to try and bear our own burdens, let alone that of 4 or 5 generations.
The level now, if something were to happen, you can criticize
them. People, when you make an announcement.
Well, we live in a democracy. Right. Do you want information or don't you?
Imagine, here was a young girl who was just becoming aware of our democracy.
When Benjamin Franklin exited the Constitutional Convention, he was asked by a woman, "Sir, what have you given us?" His immediate response was, "A republic, ma'am, if you can keep it." Yet most Americans today have been persuaded that our nation's governmental system is a democracy and not a republic.
Little smiley face, and here it is again. Special for you, special count for you people that don't believe, or do believe but don't understand, and say, well, it's not important. Well, it is important, folks.
Imagine, here was a young girl who was just becoming aware of our democracy.
When Benjamin Franklin exited the Constitutional Convention, he was asked by a woman, "Sir, what have you given us?" His immediate response was, "A republic, ma'am, if you can keep it." Yet most Americans today have been persuaded that our nation's governmental system is a democracy and not a republic.